Maria Gonzalez Delequia, Anna Smith,
Here.
Christine Maurer,
Here.
Trish Bodie,
Here.
Sade
Here.
Shakun,
Here.
Francesca Romans,
Here.
Paul Gautier.
Here.
It is 6:18, and with the quorum of the board present, I call this meeting of the Leander ISD Board of Trustees to order. We will now move to the pledge. It is my pleasure to welcome Cadet Justin Onyabi of the Lone Star Company Navy Junior ROTC at Rouse High School to lead the Pledge of Allegiance and Texas Pledge. Cadet Onyabi, a ninth grader student at Rouse High School, Go Raiders, is an active member of the Lone Star Company's Armed Drilled, Marksmanship, Color Guard, and Cyber Security teams. Captain Onyabi takes pride in serving the community as a volunteer at Veterans Memorial Park and a local Adopt a Road cleanups. Despite being in his first year in NJROTC, Captain Onyabi has completed in 2 drill competitions and has accumulated 30 hours of community service. His commitment to service, sharp personnel appearance, and exemplary conduct earned him the designation of Cadet of the Month for March 2024. Cadet Onyabi's performance and dedication were a vital part of the Lone Star Company's success, which resulted in his unit qualifying to compete at the National NJROTC competition in Pensacola, Florida. His actions reflect most favorably on the Lone Star Company Navy Junior ROTC, his school, and Leander ISD. Well done, Captain Onyabi.
Please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
If you'll please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Cadet Onyabi. We appreciate you. And next, we will now move to the Spotlight on Learning and hear from some of our outstanding students and staff from Vandergrift High School. Come on up.
Hi, good evening. Thank you guys so much for having us. My name is Alexandra Magnus. I'm the IBDP coordinator at Vandergrift High School, and we have some wonderful students here tonight to talk to you guys about our program and some of their experiences they've had in the program. We know that IB might not be the most well-known with people understanding all the ins and outs of the program, so I had some intro slides I figured we'd run through really quickly before we allow the students to speak. So the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program is a 2-year program that's available both at Vandergrift High School and Leander High School. Students can join in their junior year, and they're able to graduate with essentially a second diploma under their name after a lot of rigorous coursework and curriculum, and it's something that we very much value, things like research and discussion and in-depth knowledge of various topics. For IB in general, it is something that is available all around the world, and it's very popular in places like Europe and Asia. A lot of colleges there really see it as kind of a streamlined program. So we not only have primary years programs, middle years programs, diploma, and career-related programs available worldwide, but then here in Leander ISD, we obviously have our 2 elementary schools available at Grandview Hills Elementary and Mason Elementary, and then for the diploma program, we have Vandergrift High School and Leander High School. So for tonight, we wanted to let you guys kind of have a glimpse of what the experience of being an IB is all about and why we really love having it at Vandergrift, and why it kind of can help these students have a more niche experience sometimes. So I have 3 juniors here tonight with me and one of our seniors. He's in the midst of a lot of IB exams, so we're very happy that he was able to join us tonight. But I basically gave them one question, which was, how has being in IB shaped their experience at Vandergrift? So they're going to highlight kind of some of the different pieces that have stood out to them, but I'll let Joy go first since you have the microphone.
Hello everyone. My name is Joy Kinney. Something I'd really like to highlight about the IB program is just how close I am with all my peers. For context, at Vandergrift High School, our cohort size is very small. We're about 15 people strong, and most of my class sizes are very, very small as well. So I've been able to get really close with all my peers and all of my teachers, and it's really helped me become a lot more confident in myself and also a lot more confident to be able to make mistakes in both, so that way I can further my learning. And having these smaller class sizes means I've been able to get a lot closer with my teachers. Some of my favorite teachers, I've been able to have some of my favorite teachers, I think, in my entire school career because of the IB program. And we are able to just mess around and do fun things and still be learning so much. One of my favorite things that we've done this year is we have a quote book that's digital, and we just kind of record anything that makes us laugh. And even though not my entire cohort doesn't ever have a class all together, we still mix and mingle every once in a while, and so we all have access to this quote book, and it's so fun to see what other people are doing. And because I know these people so well, I can see how their personalities reflect. I can see someone will enter a quote and maybe they forgot to put the name of who said it. I can be like, oh, I know this person said it. It's so much like them. And it's just been so much fun to be able to learn about other people's opinions because of how discussion-based the classes are.
Hey everyone, my name is Nipun Nagendra. Thank you for having us here. For me, probably the strongest part of IB is the holistic curriculum that it has. One of the largest parts of our examination season is something called an internal assessment. And this is basically a self-guided research paper that you write, which actually goes into your final exam score. So I was able to write a research paper which is in my field of astrophysics in high school as a junior, and I'm actually able to publish that research paper before I even reach college, which is kind of insane. Paired with that, there's also this thing called the extended essay, which is something that happens outside of all your classes, but it's more of an interdisciplinary research paper where you're able to it's a 4,000 word research paper on literally anything you can choose. And so many students, I see them write this research paper, and although it is a bit difficult, there's so much support that they get from everyone around them, and it really shapes them for their future in college. And that is probably one of my biggest takeaways in IB.
Hello everybody, I'm Tharin. I'm a junior at Vandergrift High School. For me, one of the things that I really love about IB is the fact that as a program, it fundamentally encourages a different type of learning from anything else I've experienced with any other class I've done so far. And I think the exams are a really great example of this. We don't have that many MCQs on the exam or multiple choices. It's all free responses, all essays, and yeah, our hands hurt by the time we're done. But I feel like as you start to go through the course, you realize there's a lot more freedom in terms of what you learn, because you're expected to go up into that exam room and write down what you've learned. And that's really freeing because you know that you're learning the subject for what it is and not for any predetermined curriculum. And I feel like that really shows through when you're in the class. For example, with HODA, a lot of what we do is discussion-based. We go do our readings, but then we come into class, we're able to discuss what happens. And I feel like I understand the significance of what we're learning about a lot more. Really, to me, our history classes seem like a documentary with our teacher. It's genuinely amazing. It's an amazing learning experience. And yeah.
My name is Anthony, and combining what my juniors here of Nipun, Joy, and Theron have said, my biggest takeaway from IB is I think it allows you, I would say it prompts you to become more proactive in your learning. So whether it's with your IAs or your EEs, like for example, I went out and read declassified CIA documents just because I thought it would be fun, right? Or research experimental solar technology, again, just because I thought it was an interesting topic. Or being able to study with your friends on or have a close-knit group of people to work through challenges with and combine all of your learning and bring that to class. I think IB prompting you to be proactive in your learning is not only a skill that, of course, you can take into school, but a skill that you can take into the life that you will lead afterwards as well.
So we also had, I just wanted to include, formatting messed up a little bit there, but we have a graduation or like a post-alumni ceremony every single year because they don't understand or they don't receive their diplomas until the summer, so they don't get those results back. So it's really in December that we get to ask all of our graduates back. So we've had that for the past 4 years, and we got some quotes from our graduates, and I asked them kind of the same thing of, okay, you're in college, what did you get from IB? And we always get really wonderful feedback from our students of it kind of setting them up for success, making sure they're prepared for the rigor of any university setting that they want to go into, and so we really have a lot of fun in IB, and we really love that we have the opportunity to have it at Vandergrift. But thank you guys so much for your time this evening, and thank you for your support.
Christian, would you mind putting Dr. Delacqua up here? She would like to just make sure to say hi to Vandergrift. She's here on remote, virtually, so we just want to make sure she's...
Hi, I'm sorry. That's my home school, and so lots of love for Vandy, and just wanted to say, go Vipers.
Thank y'all so much. Now we'd like to get a picture with y'all.
Thank you.
And we love our spotlight on learning. Thank you so much, Vandergrift, for coming out. I know IB season right now is a little crazy. And next, we're going to move on to one of our favorite parts of the night. It's video recognitions. We're going to watch a video highlighting some of our incredible things happening in Leander ISD.
Hello, and welcome to the Leander ISD board meeting. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Ethan. We're 5th graders at Aiken Elementary. Can you believe it's already May? Where has the time gone?
As more time passes, our hashtag LISD family continues to amaze us with their ongoing accomplishments. Have you taken a ride on a Cap Metro bus lately? You may have noticed some super stunning art inside. Well, some of our very own students created the designs.
Check it out. Several Plain Elementary students submitted their drawings to Cap Metro to be featured on one of their buses. Art on the bus raises awareness for healthy environmental practice and how energy-efficient transportation can have an impact on the environment. That just makes us plain proud.
Competition in many career and technical education programs are still going strong. DECA just got back from the International Career Development Conference, or ICDC, and didn't come home empty-handed.
DECA is an organization focused on raising the next generation of business owners and marketing professionals. All 6 of our high schools competed at state. We had a combined 2019's advanced to ICDC, the highest level. At ICDC, 4 of our schools brought home the hardware. A team from Vista Ridge placed first overall in the Sports and Entertainment Operations Research category and was named the International Champions, while another Vista Ridge team took 5th place spot in the same division. 2 more Ranger teams were named 5th and 7th place finalists in Hotel Tourism Operations Research and Financial Operations Research. The Rouse Raiders took ICDC by storm, leaving with 2 third-place finishes, 1 Sports and Entertainment Marketing Series category and the other an Auction Challenge campaign.
The Raiders also received a sixth-place nod in the International Business Plan while medaling in the sports and entertainment marketing team decision-making. Closing out ICDC accomplishments, Cedar Park High School medaled in quick service restaurant management and Leander High School medaled in retail merchandising series. It's incredible that the future of business and entrepreneurship is right here at LISD. Another CTE program preparing students for a wide variety of leadership opportunities is FFA, which focuses on agriculture education. They have had a series of state-level events so far this year, and you already know our students from LISD came back shining.
3 of our high schools placed in the top 3 of the respective categories. Let's start with Vandergrift High School. We brought home a first-place team win in the vet science category, while also having 2 of their students earn second and third place in the individual part of this division. Vista Ridge also earned first place for coming up with a stellar marketing plan. Last but not least, Cedar Park was named the semi-finalist in senior grade speaking and third place in agricultural communications. We want to wish those participating in July's state convention the best of luck this summer. We're not done bringing home state awards just yet, because the Glen Indoor Drumline brought the beat this season.
The team continued its success from previous years and won another state championship at the Texas Color Guard Circuit. Led by percussion director Jacob Gall, the team swept all 5 events as part of the Percussion Scholastic Open Division. Congratulations not only for your recent championship, but to their consistency and dedication to their craft. Our middle school students are catching the wave of success. A few choice students have been recognized as the best of the best in National Juniors Honor Society.
Congratulations to Marion Harris from Canyon Ridge, Lainey Suman from Stiles, and Kathleen Pham and Reese Roquin from Wiley for receiving the Outstanding Achievement Award from the NJHS. These students earn the honor through their commitment to the 5 pillars of NJHS: scholarship, service, leadership, character, and citizenship. The organization is giving each student a $500 college savings plan. Congratulations, young scholars. We can't wait to see what else you accomplish in your bright future. We don't know where we would be without our incredible nursing staff across the district. We are extremely grateful for all you do.
To help us celebrate National Nurses Week, here is our Director of Health Services, Kristen Wiggets.
Hi, my name is Kristen Wicketts. I'm the Director of Health Services for Leander ISD. With it being Nurse Appreciation Week and in honor of School Nurse Appreciation Day, I'd like to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to our amazing health services team. Each member of this dedicated team plays an essential role in ensuring access to education for all students. Their unwavering compassion, advocacy, and expertise make a real difference in our #1 LISD community every day. Thank you for all you do.
There are a few thousand more people we'd like to highlight this week. To go to one LISD are incredible teachers and substitutes.
It's Teacher and Substitute Appreciation Week. There are not enough hours in a day to express how much teachers mean to us. Here to share how much our teachers mean to us is our old buddy Bruce. Take it away.
Hello, Leander ISD. For almost 3 years, I was a substitute teacher in London, England, and I got to experience classrooms of all different kinds, and it was a fascinating experience for me, but I learned a lot of things. And so I just want to say thank you to the substitute teachers who come in on a daily basis throughout Leander ISD and do such a remarkable job in helping our teachers to continue the work with their students and the learning when they aren't there. But to our teachers, as a parent, I want you to know that you changed my kids' lives, that they come home and they talk about you in a way that just is life-changing. You make such a difference in their lives. And I know that you do that for every single one of our #1 LISD family. And I cannot thank you enough. So please accept our deep appreciation in this week, but know that it extends way beyond just this week. We are one LISD.
The people and pursuits of Leander ISD truly are phenomenal. We're so close to the end of the school year, so let's finish strong.
See you next time, and always remember, there's no place like LISD.
And next we will move to, next is the citizens' comments portion of our agenda. Before I invite the first speaker to the podium, we're going to watch a short introductory video.
Hello, my name is Amira, and I'm a 4th grader at Aiken. The District and Board of Trustees are the local government body responsible for serving the educational needs of all school children, like me and my friends here in Leander Independent School District. Their mission is to cultivate each individual student while creating a safe and supportive environment. The board is now taking up the citizen comment agenda item. This is dedicated time during the meeting to hear from the whole community, and the LASD family is listening. The board wants to hear from everyone. Please be mindful of your conduct and the example you are choosing to set when presenting complex information. Remember that school children of all ages may participate in board meetings either by watching them online, or you might even see some of us in the audience. Still remember that there are other ways you can communicate with the board. You can send them an email, come to a board cafe, or just tell them that you would like to chat sometime. When the board president calls your number, remember, watch the timer and focus your remarks on the time allotted. We know that this can be hard, but please conclude your comments when you hear the chime.
And we will start citizens' comments, and just so everyone knows, it's part of the board that we allow our students to speak first before adults, so we will start with speaker number 1.
Hello, my name is Siri Pemberton. The Leander High School swim team was notified last Friday that our practice location will change from Blockhouse to Nitro in the 2024-2025 school year. While this may seem reasonable on the outside, as Blockhouse is a 6-lane outdoor pool and Nitro is a 23-lane indoor pool, this couldn't be further from the truth. Many, including myself, are enraged by this. As captain of the Leander swim team this year, it is my job to ensure that people's needs are advocated for. As elected officials, it is your job to both represent LISD and make decisions that will further elevate the programs. By making this decision, LISD has done neither. This does not represent us. It does not even represent other LISD schools, who will also be negatively affected by this change. Not only is this an inaccurate representation of LISD, but it is not a decision that will elevate the programs. Does reducing practice space and limiting opportunities for meets facilitate an environment for growth? I'm not sure it does in any world. In addition, each of the reasons listed for this decision were small hurdles, ones that have been and can be overcome with teamwork. The most feasible one was the concern for lifeguards. There are numerous lifeguard companies available, as well as possible workarounds with swimmer or parent lifeguards. I've truly been disheartened by LISD's unwillingness to work to overcome such minuscule hurdles, and instead trade the livelihoods of so many students. We need to reverse this decision and work together to make sure that the swim programs are cared for. Nitro is not the solution. Thank you.
Speaker number 2. No speaker number 2, okay. Speaker number 3.
Thank you, sorry. Good evening. My name is Carmen Hounstein, and I am a junior on the Leander High School swim team. I am very disappointed at the district's decision to move us to Nitro. Our Blockhouse swimming pool has always been a huge part of this team and its culture. One essential aspect of this is our meets. Each year, about half of our meets are at Blockhouse. We host these and have paid thousands of dollars in equipment for them. Taking away Blockhouse from us completely eliminates this. It takes away our opportunities. Competing at as many meets as possible is essential in being able to track our progress throughout the season, bond as a team, and achieve time standards for meets like TISCA. Without our home meets, we lose out on so much of the experience of being on this team. This decision also affects other teams. When hosting meets, we are providing opportunities to other LISD schools to do the same things that we will be losing out on. Stripping us of our ability to host meets has even larger implications on teams which are not invited to as many meets as we are. Another deprivation we face with the loss of home meets is some of our traditions. LISD is taking our annual tri-meet with Glenn and Rouse, our senior appreciation meet, our inter-squad meet, and so much more. This is heartbreaking as it is removing so much of the core of the team, the culture we have, and the traditions we share with our fellow teams. Honestly, I could go on for hours about how important each one of our home meets are. I understand the situation LISD is in, but I do not think they have thought about the implications of this decision at all, because I strongly believe that the small issues with Blockhouse are nothing compared to what we stand to lose if this decision holds. Thank you.
Speaker number 4.
Hi, I'm Haven from the LHS swim team. When I first heard the decision to move Leander swimming to Nitro, I actually agreed. You see, I transferred to LHS for IB, so Nitro is actually closer to my house. However, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I actually do not understand this decision. There are already 4 high school teams that swim at Nitro every morning, so there isn't any more space for us. When we have practice there, not all of the teams can be accounted for with the space. Also, one reason listed for moving to Nitro was more practice opportunities, but this is actually the opposite of what will happen. Not even that, but the actual amount of time we would be allotted to in the pool to practice would be almost halved. You see, we can swim from 6:50 to 8:50 at Blockhouse, but we would only be able to swim from around 7:15 to 8:30 at Nitro. In addition, we wouldn't have any time after practice to get ready for school, since Nitro is a lot further from the school. I know that the board wants what is best for the district, and this decision is the opposite of that. Instead, help the swimming program thrive instead of die, and let us go back to Blockhouse. Thank you.
Speaker number 5.
Hello, I'm Sophia. I will be a senior captain on the swim team next year. I do not agree with moving Leander Swim from Blockhouse to Nitro. Blockhouse is part of who Leander Swim is as a team. Being on the team for 3 years, I have seen the team grow closer together and create strong relationships with each other that wouldn't be possible if we were at Nitro. We have traditions on this team, from senior meets and final swims to red v blue and water polo, and many more that we simply cannot do at Nitro. Moving us to Nitro would take away our traditions and our opportunities for growth. Nitro does not have the positive environment that we have grown to love at Blockhouse. And we all know that a positive environment makes for good relationships and developments in swimming individually and as a team. When we swim at Blockhouse, we are comfortable and confident in who we are. We are not the same people we are at Blockhouse as we are at Nitro. Overall, we are the swimmers and we are the ones affected by this decision. Blockhouse is our home, and you cannot take us from our home and expect the same results at a different place. We have built a swim program at LHS rooted in Blockhouse, from summer league to final senior swims. Blockhouse may not be the perfect solution, but it is perfect for us, and I believe Blockhouse is part of who we are. So please work with Coach Weeks and get us back to Blockhouse for next year.
Speaker number 6.
Hello, my name is Catherine. I'm a junior. I will be a junior on Leander swim team next year. LAIC is trying to move us from Blockhouse Creek to Nitro facility. Moving all of the high schools to Nitro does not solve anything. Cramming 4 LAISD high schools into one facility is only a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Instead, pushing everyone to Nitro, the district needs to think about a way to put the facility up for us that will actually benefit our swim programs. Swimming is has been a part of the LAC athletics for around 30 years, and we have nothing to show for it. Our sport has so many state-level athletes, and we need the recognition that we deserve. The recognition we receive pales in comparison to the other sports in the district that seem to always get promoted. We are dedicated to the sport, and we argue that our passion could be greater than all the others. We deserve to be represented in the school district like all the other sports are. And when it comes to a decision that greatly affects us, like the terrible move to Nitro, we would appreciate some sort of consideration into how it makes us feel. We are the ones that have to live with your decision, so including us only seems like the right thing to do. Thank you.
Speaker number 7.
Hi, my name is Bobber. I'm a freshman and also a proud member of the Leander High School swim team. I'd like to start off by saying that not too long ago, my English teacher asked the class to write about a place that's sacred to us. The first and the only place that came to mind was the Apache Pool at Blockhouse Creek. And it really made me think. Of the 7 years I stuck to swimming, this has by far been the most enjoyable year to swim. Though there are many reasons for that, there are some major ones I would like to mention. Our pool is like a home to us. We go to practice because we want to, not because we're forced. It's always a pleasure to swim to some music from our speakers while the sun begins to rise. Unfortunately, we cannot do this at Nitro. Our pool brings us joy, and it would be a shame to be deprived of it. That won't be the only thing we would be deprived of. We would also be deprived of oxygen. I would like to talk a little bit about the air. As a Nitro swimmer, I can attest to the vile nature of the environment we are being sent to. There is mold in the building, but in my opinion, that's worse is extremely bad air quality. It's bad to the point where swimmers cough nonstop and are forced to get out of the water and go outside to get some fresh air. That won't be a problem at Blockhouse. The air is consistently horrid at Nitro. Whenever it is in the air, gets stuck in your lungs for a few days, disallowing swimmers from taking a full deep breath. Not to mention that we have asthmatics on the team. Being at Nitro means asking a question, how much the human body can withstand. Can we withstand a bad environment? Can we withstand being forced out of our home? I don't want to answer that question, nor do I want my teammates to. Like they say, a happy swimmer is a fast swimmer. Please keep us fast. Thank you.
Speaker number 8.
Hello, I'm Anna Nelson, a Leander High School swimmer. I'm here to respond to the letter we received telling us that we will move from our pool Blockhouse to Nitro. The letter states, by transitioning to Nitro, we aim to provide our swimmers with a more stable and conducive training environment. If stable is defined with bad air quality, skin rashes from chemicals in the water, and mold growth, then yes, Nitro has that. If conducive training environment means a furthermore dangerous drive for new student drivers, with a furthermore, dangerous drive for new student drivers, less days for our varsity level practices in an overcrowded shared pool. That is Nitro. But if you all are willing to resolve the minor issues at Blockhouse and be willing to ask us, the swimmers, what our needs are for our swim program, or at least come to a practice before deciding whether this is really a move that benefits us or if it's an easy way out. Nitro is not a permanent solution. Thank you.
Speaker number 9.
Hi, I'm Trish from the Leander High School swim team. I'm very concerned that we will be moving to Nitro next year. Two of my favorite parts of the swim team are stretching in the morning and bonding with teammates before and after practice. Both of these will be taken away from the shift from Blockhouse to Nitro. Blockhouse has wonderful green grass where our swim team congregates every morning to do stretches and build shoulder strength with bands. We have learned that this is a vital part of preventing injuries in swimming, but it's also a huge part of our team's socialization and culture. Nitro has limited deck space, and 40+ swimmers doing these stretches in the morning is not feasible in that facility. Knowing this will get taken away next year upsets me immensely. Additionally, with the proximity of Blockhouse to LHS and to our school, moving to Nitro will cause an increased pay of gas, which is definitely not cheap. Playing music in the locker rooms at Nitro and at Blockhouse and while at practice, and chatting with friends in the morning is where so many of my memories are made. At Nitro, we are always rushed and we don't have enough time to get ready, which drastically impacts mornings and memories with friends. LISD needs to realize the effects of this decision and work to revise it. Thank you.
Speaker number 10.
Hello, Leander ISD board. I'm extremely outraged about this decision to move to Nitro. This is not a great decision for our team or for anyone on our team. Moving from an outdoor pool to an indoor pool is a horrible decision. Outdoor swimmers cannot sustain the lung capabilities as indoor swimmers have, and it will affect us greatly. Many people on our team have gotten pneumonia just because of this reason, and just because this will not prioritize our safety, and you cannot turn a blind eye to these health risks associated with such a facility. Also, Blockhouse has stood for a beacon of safety for our facility and our team. Furthermore, it's a logistical nightmare traveling to Nitro that cannot be understated. A journey that is 10 miles is no small feat, especially for our younger members and their families. Blockhouse, on the other hand, is conveniently located within a 2-mile radius, easily in minimal time. Let's not sacrifice our convenience and accessibility on the altar of novelty, but perhaps more importantly, let's not forget the sense of community that Blockhouse has. We have Red Bee Blue Meats, we have meats there, and we have a close community there. Why take a good thing and destroy it? Also, lastly, I know that there was an athletic bond that has recently passed in the high school. It is utterly ridiculous that there is no mention of a swim or athletic team on no campus. There has been $18 million for Gumpton Stadium, $12 million for Biden Stadium, $25 million for Glenn Stadium, but $0 for an athletic aquatic center. That makes no sense to me. Thank you for your time.
Speaker number 11.
Hi, my name is Chloe Quinn, and I'm a freshman at Leander High School. I wanted to quickly address the board regarding the possible move from Blockhouse to Nitro for our daily practices. I can speak from experience about the air quality at Nitro. After swimming at Nitro in early January, I developed a severe cough which caused me to go to the doctor. I got walking pneumonia and laryngitis. After taking the given prescriptions for my pneumonia, I still noticed the same symptoms. I recently went back to the doctor because of these returning symptoms and was diagnosed with asthma, and feel it was caused by the pneumonia I got from Nitro back in January. I love swimming for LHS, but without the proper ventilation, mold removal, and further safety precautions being addressed at Nitro, I don't know that I will be able to continue, which makes me very sad. My health is more important. Thank you for your time.
Speaker number 12.
Hi, my name is Nathan. I'm on the LHS swim team and I'm against the switch to Nitro. I wanted to clear up some misconceptions that they're using to justify switch to Nitro, one being that Nitro will offer greater flexibility for us. In the past, this is not true. We have had to move lanes which stop our practice because another school needed to use them. But a bigger issue here is a transportation situation, that the transport has not been the best in the past, and many times they've forgotten to send a bus to take us to school. One time when we had a practice at Nitro, the driver was told to take us to Rouse instead of Leander, and we arrived very late to school. This is largely a problem because we can't be missing out on learning because the responsibility falls on us to make it up after school. So for the transportation, it'd be better to not have a bus at the pool that's 5 minutes away from the school than the one that's 20 minutes away. Another issue is the weather, saying that an indoor pool solves the issue of weather canceling practice, and it says that the weather has canceled practice in the past. I can count on one hand the amount of times that weather has canceled practice. It does not get cold enough here for the weather to cancel practice. When it does, the roads are too cold to even drive on. Other times are thunderstorms, but thunderstorm season in Texas is only after the season is over, which going to an indoor pool will not help us. Thank you for your time.
Speaker number 13.
Hello, my name is Zach. I have 2 kids that are on the swim team, and we are against this move to Nitro. I am a former swimmer with the district. I swam for the team 25 years ago through Leander, and we still don't have a pool for anybody in the entire district. The district has had teams for 30 years, and we have nothing. You can't say that about any other sport, except for maybe golf, because I don't think the district's going to build a golf course anytime soon. But football, we have multiple stadiums, tennis courts at every school, soccer fields, baseball fields. Every other sport has some sort of facility, but swimming does not. It kind of breaks my heart, to be honest. I loved swimming growing up. It was part of everything that I did. And the fact that I have 2 kids on the team currently makes me immensely happy. The fact that we do not have any type of facility at all does not make me happy. It doesn't make anybody happy. I think that is one thing that I think we should all take from this. All the complaints of our kids is stepping up. Thank you.
And that concludes our citizen comment portion of our agenda. We will now move to the consent agenda items. Board members, do you have any motions related to consent agenda items?
I move the consent agenda items be approved as presented.
I second.
We have a motion from Christine, a second from Francesca. All those in favor? 7 ayes, no nays, motion passes. Sorry, Gloria. And next, we're going to move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, board members. We are so excited to welcome to the LISD family Heisel Elementary School. So we had a great event at one of our Cedar Park parks a little over a week ago. Great turnout of families, staff, all dressed in their blue shirts. We had the unveiling of the Heisel Hounds, and so we're very excited to welcome them to our LISD family. All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about empowered staff for a second. Several of you board members came with us to the transportation celebration, and what an incredible event this was that showcased this idea of empowered staff. It really was evident to me that relationships matter, and how we build those relationships, how we support each other, and who we are as people matters. And so I know you heard from Brandon and the transportation department last week, but I want to reiterate some of those numbers for you to just point to this issue of relationships. So when you look at staff turnover in the transportation department, in 21-22, they had a 38% turnover rate of staff. In 22-23, that was 39%. And to date this year, in 23-24, we have a 10% turnover rate. We've had 21 former employees return to the transportation department this year. Last year at this time, we had 78 open positions in the transportation department, and as of right now, we have 26 open positions. And that, to me, speaks volumes to the relationships that you can see in this picture right here, how much they get along, how much they value each other. So much so that one of my favorite moments was this one. If you see, this is the ZZ Top Stand-In Award, and I spoke about in the board meeting, and without fail so far, I have been able to talk about really incredible learning that's happening in our classrooms. Oh, I sounded like a Heisel hound for a second. So I want to take you to Parkside Elementary School to their 4th grade Ecology Expo. And so this is happening in the incredible common area spaces that we have in our new elementary school design. So here you actually don't see fourth graders. These are younger students who are touring the expo of dioramas that the fourth graders had worked on in their project. Parkside Elementary School has taken on an inquiry model and a project-based learning model through New Tech Network. And these young students are observing what the older students have done. I'll share a little bit with you about what that looks like in a second. But to give you some idea, this is their project timeline, their New Tech Network year-long timeline. And so you see the road going through the desert, you see the 3 mountains on the right-hand side, and there's a big project sign in the middle. We're going to visit little parts of this in turn. So this is the big driving question for the work that we saw in the expo today. How can we, as ecologists, describe an ecosystem and predict how changes affect a local food web? And so I just want you to note the way that question is phrased. How can we, as ecologists? So now we're not learning about ecology, we're being ecologists. And I think that's a fundamental paradigm shift in how we think about the work. The 3 mountains that you saw, they have 2 flags on them already. These are prior PBL projects that they worked on, that they've completed already. And when they complete this current project, then their flag will move onto that 3rd mountain as they keep track of their progress through the year. So they always have a project launch as they bring these big ideas to the table. There's lots of activities involved in the classroom. Not all of those activities are a big part of the PBL project. Some of those are very specific and sometimes content and teacher-driven learning opportunities. So I don't want you to imagine that this learning is always outside in creating these kinds of projects, because they do a lot of work inside the classroom too. But there are benchmarks along the way. These are not the traditional kind of benchmarks that you're used to, and I'm going to share with you some pictures of what that looks like. And there's always reflection in here. And so you can see in this model how we're moving towards graduate profile attributes and some of the other work that we've been doing. And so this is one of the dioramas that talks about Texas coral snakes. You can see that they've created an environment that matches now all the learning that they've done as ecologists. On the side, these are some of their benchmarks that they've produced to showcase their learning, and they're using these to defend their learning, and we've talked about what some of that looks like before. The young students that you saw touring the expo all had these clipboards with these 3 prompts on them: I see, I think, and I wonder. And so as they're working through the expo, they really are reflecting on what they see, and they're going back in their classrooms then and talking about that. These younger students are also witnessing what the older students are doing. Their work is aligned in several ways to this work as we look through the vertical alignment lens. And so they're looking forward now to their opportunity to have these kinds of experiences in the classroom. So then Mrs. Bryant came out and grabbed me and said, "Will you come in my classroom and I want to show you a few things." And so I'm not going to show you everything I saw because I'm going to spend a little bit of time at another meeting explaining some of those things. But posted all over her wall are the 4 major projects that they've worked on this year. And I encourage you to take a moment, if you can, at some point, to get over to Parkside Elementary and go and visit with Mrs. Bryant and her kids about the incredible work that they've done all year long on these major projects, and all the things that those involve. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about those, but I need you to know that she's a self-contained 4th grade teacher. They have an odd number of sections, and so the others are actually departmentalized and specialize in math and science and writing and reading. Mrs. Bryant does all of that together. And so we talked a lot about what does that PLC process look like when you have those different things going on, and they're having fascinating conversations about what works well in that self-contained environment and what works well in those departmentalized environments. All right, so let's go back to the Heisel Hounds for a second. We just wanted to share a few more images of the wonderful day that we had in the park with their new team and the great new family community that they're building. The school itself, the safe and learning environment that we're creating out on St. Gabriel is progressing very nicely. You can see the roadways that have gone in, the parking lots that are in, and they're doing an extensive amount of work inside the building. And we're very excited to be able to say that we are on track to open on time this summer to allow our staff in the building in time to be ready for our students to come. Playground is already going in. All right, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Board members, do you have any questions for Dr. Gehring? No? All right, no questions for you. Wait, no, we do.
I don't have anything, Bruce. I'd like to put something on the agenda for next time. I'd like to put on the agenda for next time a discussion of why we moved the Leander High School swim team to the Nitro pool versus the Blockhouse pool.
So just so our board is aware what our board operating procedures are, what we can do is you can either have another board member second, either through email or at the board. So Paul, if you want to have a future agenda item, which I do want to remind the public and this board that that decision was administration decision. It was not a board decision. This was not a board decision made. If you can get a second, then you could have this on the agenda at a future date. Those are the way our board operating procedures read. Board members? Paul, you're not going to get a second. You can also try again through email and talk to other board members offline if you like. I do want to remind the board and the public this was not a board decision. This was an administration decision. We don't usually and don't get involved in decisions like this. All right. We will now move to discussion action item 7B1, discussion of the TASB 2024-2026 advocacy agenda resolutions. Sorry, y'all. Right, that's me, right? That's us? Oh, yeah. No, that's you, right? Board members, did y'all get a chance to look over the proposed 2024-2026 advocacy resolutions? Where's my legislative committee chair?
Yes, I think, so these resolutions, what you're looking at are resolutions that we submit to TASB to say, these are some of the issues we want to focus on for the legislative session. This is not the same thing as our legislative priorities. Our legislative priorities, we're still talking about in the committee what those need to look like, and this is a different set of priorities. This is something that we're sending to TASB, knowing that they're also working on the bigger picture. I'm on the legislative committee of TASB with that, and they're talking about finance for school. We're talking about those big issues, safety and security, mental health. These are those pinpoint, if you will, targeted issues that don't always make it into the larger scale priorities, but that we as districts still feel are important. They are the ones that still have not been resolved. And so we're still talking about how do we help build our teacher workforce in our advocacy resolutions. The other thing that we're also talking about in there is that we're wanting to talk about local control. It's very important that there is transparency when we're changing over that, and we're going to continue to advocate for that if we pass this and send it on to TASB. The other one is HB3 took out our cost of education index. There's been a whole lot of discussion on how much does it really truly cost to educate our children. We know that it is quite a lot based on everything that we've been looking at, but we once had a CEI in the state. We would like to bring something back, an index that's attempted to adjust for geographical competition. We've heard about that, the cost of living differences, and update it rather than just remove it. We think that'll help our lawmakers and our trustees have better discussions on the funding that we really need for our district. So again, these are those support pieces, if you will, for what's going to come in longer term. With that, I would ask if the board would support a motion to adopt these resolutions to pass on to TASB.
And I just want everyone to be clear, this information was in your Friday memo, so everyone had a chance to submit a resolution to the legislative committee, but Trish, how many did we receive?
And by the way, this was tonight discussion, not
Yes,
vote.
not for
Sorry.
approval, it's for
Yeah,
discussion.
I know. I was
Yeah, you're
just
good, you're
moving on.
good.
So, yeah, and
How many resolutions did receive from any other board members? Because this information was available for everyone,
yes,
correct?
yes, and we've asked for other submissions. We have yet to receive any other submissions than these that are here before us tonight.
So as the legislative committee chair, if other board members would like to add to this, is that still possible? Or
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You just need to write it up so that we can quickly process it and get it on for our next agenda. If you see changes you want to make to this, you can also send that through Cindy to the legislative committee, and we will get that processed and ready for our vote at our next meeting.
All right, board members, this is for discussion only. If you have an idea for an advocacy resolution, because we're going to need all the advocacy we can get this next legislative session, please, please, please send a Trish so the legislative committee can look it over and we can get those published, and so we can have more tools to advocate for public education. Are there any other questions from board members?
If I could just make one
Yes,
clarification.
ma'am.
I know I said it, but these are the support pieces. So these aren't your big legislative priorities. These are very targeted ones. So think about that when you're wondering what is the best mechanism for this. These are targeted priorities that you're requesting.
All right, are there any other board questions? No, are we good? All right, board members, get with Trish. Sorry, Dr. Gary.
Would it be okay for us to put that on consent for next time, if they don't change, if we don't have additions? Okay, thank you.
All right, consent for that next item for next agenda. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your work on that, Trish. I know this is we appreciate you serving on the LAC and being a voice for not only LISD, but for public education.
Well, it is a lot of work, but it is a joy. And thank you, Legislative Committee. We have had to meet so much more. I mean, when all those special sessions were going, I mean, we were meeting constantly. Thank you, Legislative Committee, for staying with it. And when I know I mentioned resolutions, I think you're like, wait, what, again? We were just done with this. So thank y'all for your patience. Yeah, it's a process. So thank you, Committee, for staying with it. Y'all been amazing.
All right, board members, we will now go to 7C1, the next agenda item. So that agenda item, y'all, I know y'all have been waiting for it. It is going to be the considerable approval of the 2024-2025 total compensation recommendations.
Since we already talked about this a little bit, I'm just going to get us started. I move the Board of Trustees approve a 2.5% of midpoint salary increase for all employees for the 2024-2025 school year, and authorize the superintendent to finalize the compensation plan on this basis and report to the board upon completion. Also, authorization of the superintendent to approve a one-time lump sum retention payment not to exceed $1,000 per full-time employee or $500 per part-time employee based on the guidelines set forth in the compensation plan. And authorization for the superintendent to amend the 2024-2025 compensation and benefits plan after the start of the fiscal year as required by law, administrative rule, if additional legal requirements or interpretations necessitate such a change or in the best interest of the district.
I second.
We have a motion from Christine, a second from Sade. Board members, it's discussion time.
Yeah, I would think about entertaining making an amendment to the motion from 2.5% to 2% to see if it would get seconded to have a vote. I think talking about 2.5% though gives us a good start, so I don't want to make that motion right now. I would like to have the discussion at 2.5%, since that's the motion on the floor, knowing that my thought is, can I amend it later if it gets a second to.
Let's have the discussion, because the motion right now is 2.5%. I'd like the other board members to have the discussion on that.
Absolutely.
So based on what I just heard, I think it would be good if we can allow, we have brought some additional information that has transpired since the last board meeting. We would like to share that with you because I think that will help shape the discussion and then any amendments or motions at that time.
And absolutely, because I don't want to make a motion until I know exactly how does this impact bottom line, budget, 3%. Of course, we want to give our teachers everything that we can, but not cause unnecessary issues where we have a reduction in force later. So if y'all can go ahead and help.
I do want to add, Tristo, a lot of board members have been talking to Pete and Carrie Lynn throughout the process. So a lot of them have been, I'm assuming, are knowing what's going on. So I don't want to like have that notion that this was brought on surprise. Like a lot of board members I know have been doing the work behind the scenes.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Anna Smith, serving as president tonight, or Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Gehring, Pete Poppy, Chief Financial Officer, and we have Carrie Lynn Egling, our Chief Human Resource Officer, Chief of Human Resources. We have a quick presentation, just kind of real high level. A lot of it has been mentioned before. Some of the information is updated a little bit, so hopefully help guide the discussion. And to help for the decision tonight, all right, so it's got real high level, then we'll narrow in fairly quick. Just to remind everyone, the state legislature did not increase school funding this last session. Since 2019, the districts have incurred inflation of approximately 19%. And if you adjust for inflation, our basic allotment, which is the main driver of school funding of $6,160, after adjusted for inflation, is about $4,380, which is the lowest it's been since 2010. The 88th legislature, they did pass some legislation. They did pass Senate Bill 2, reduced our local property taxes statewide about $12.6 billion. Then, as it turned, it increased state funding to school districts, $12.6 billion. They also increased the state-mandated homestead exemption from $40,000 to $100,000 at an additional cost to the state of $5.3 billion. But this infusion of money did not increase the amount of monies that school districts get. It was basically a swap. I mean, your local taxes went down, and the state funding went up, and that amount matched and covered itself. But as far as new funding, there's no additional funding when you look at the bottom line to school districts. So we started out with death by 1,000 cuts. Now we're up to death by 1,001 cuts, and we keep going here. But just kind of give you an idea of all the things that we've had to incorporate or consider as we develop this 2024-2025 budget. Is we've had a reduction in our Title I allotment of $1.8 million from current school year for next year. So we obviously had to assess how do we do with those positions that were funded out of that fund. We had a reduction, we talked about earlier about the Texas and instructional materials allotment TEMA. That was back in 2019, 2021. But the way our funds roll forward, well, we didn't have the funds this year to do the full science adoption, so we had to take $2.3 million from our general fund balance to get the science kits for our teachers to have to match the new adoption materials. SHARS, we kept you up to date on that quite a bit. We got hit $7 million in funding that we would have got this year. And we also incurred the way the Human Health Services has recalculated, or what they've come up with, is a 20% reduction in our future years of our SHARS reimbursement. If you look at our special education program as a whole, the state underfunds that program by $25 million. That's $25 million that the district has to use some other funds to subsidize and pay for the services that we provide for our students that are required by law through ARDs, IEPs, et cetera. The state funding for safety and security, it does not meet the state mandates. Police department will cost us about $4.8 million in annual M&O budget, with an additional $2 million coming out of fund balance for startup cost. Our allotment, our safety and security allotment we received from the state was bumped up to $1.1 million. There's some further funding of state grants. However, with state grants, also comes loss of local control and where you need to put the money, which also leads us to the next bullet. What happens when the grant runs out? So it's really hard, it's hard to put personnel costs into a grant because either it runs out and you have to continue it, or you have to not provide the service any longer. So we just had that with the loss of the autism grant, $500,000 to $600,000. Those positions were evaluated, and a vast majority of those were moved over to the general fund. The elementary and secondary school emergency relief, ESSER, the fund that we've had for the last 3 years, those are ending. A lot of the positions we reviewed, not all the positions were able to be carried forward, nor were they, but some were, and those went into the general fund as well. So if you kind of look at the environment throughout the state with school districts, and you don't have to look very far. These are headlines all over the area on your news channels, but the districts are reducing staff. They're doing it by attrition. Some are even cutting positions. You know, you've all heard them. Districts, some are not giving any raises. Some are only just doing one-time payments. Some are having to cut programs. I mean, districts are in a position where it's very difficult to provide the services. I mean, even just the basic services, but you know, especially districts that have impressive programs, do great things, and it's hard for districts to be able to continue these going forward. So what we did is we looked at our budget. You know, we knew historically that we would adopt a negative deficit budget, and at the end of the year, we'd end up adding some monies to the fund balance. And so we really dug in, looked at all the positions, we looked at how we budgeted everything, and we were able to tighten quite a bit. But we were not able to really add a lot of any new position requests, and we had 326 requests that we were pretty able to narrow down to in the high 100s. And then we narrowed it down to about 60 to 70, and then we narrowed it down to 30 of these positions that we have not approved any of these. We just have a list of 30. We try to, each time we meet, narrow it to what's really the need. And each time we meet, I give an update on the budget, and we have to tighten it up even more. So we do have this list that's kind of pending out there that chiefs will continue to meet and discuss. But you know, we reviewed our processes, we reviewed some programs, we're seeking efficiencies. And if state funding increases next year, great. If it doesn't increase, we're still going through this process of how do we do what we do and how can we continue to do it at the level we're doing it. So to be prepared for fiscal year 26 and beyond, you know, we are conducting staffing studies. The board is aware of that. We were looking at efficiency reviews, looking at a full external compensation study. In the fall, we'll have our staffing guidelines. We're reviewing master schedules, programs, and operations. We're putting everything on the table. I'm not going to leave anything unturned. And to be in a position to where one of two things. One is if the state does provide some funding, we will be as efficient as we can be, and that's that much more monies that we have to do for our employees and for our staff and for our programs and for our students. And B, if the state doesn't give anything, we will be as lean as we can possibly be, and then we'll have to develop a plan to whether we dip into fund balance or we have to look at reducing positions. And hopefully that's not the case, but we want to be able to know that we've looked at everywhere and every place. We just recently, or Dr. Gehring has some staff listening sessions. He held quite a large number of those. 292 participants. They had 280 comments. I'm not going to make eye contact because I can't read that font on this behind you guys from here. But in a nutshell, basically, they had some great discussion. Reached out to our employees to see, hey, what are the needs? What are the concerns? What's bothering you? What's on your mind? Pay and compensation was mentioned. It wasn't the most common mentioned, but it was something that was mentioned and is a concern. There are a lot of other themes, such as the educational practices, our policies, professional development and training that we provide for our staff, innovative programs and support initiatives also emerged as priorities. And so I just wanted to bring to the attention that obviously compensation is important. That's not what we're trying to relay, but also it's not the only factor that goes into what we provide for our staff. So like I said, it wasn't the sole focus of the discussions, but there were other pressing issues that participants wanted for us to address as well. So we tried, as we developed this budget, we built it on a 2% was the assumption, but we also did try to make sure that we were still providing the benefits that we have for our employees, providing the PD or professional development and support the staff. And that's an ongoing process. But as we've done that and we built our budget, so I can kind of give you, here's kind of where we landed at today. Again, as we mentioned, we're recommending a 2% compensation increase. With that 2%, we also are recommending, if the board approves, a one-time payment next year, a retention incentive similar to what we have done in years prior, or years past, that would come out of a general fund balance, and that would be brought to the board at a later time, with the goal of ensuring that our budget ends up in that 3% deficit threshold that we have set. And so, in a real nutshell, in the three areas that are kind of highlighted in red/pink, a 2% compensation increase. It's a one-time payment. It's the least of the recurring cost. That's kind of one of the main concerns we have going forward. Not knowing what's going to happen with the next session is how much do we put in a cost that we'll have next year. And then the one-time payment, if we were to do similar to what we've done in the past at $1,000, it would be about $5.5 million, give or take. That would be $1,000 for a full-time employee and half for a part-time, very similar way that we've done it in the past. The next one is a 2.5%. That's a little bit higher on the recurring cost. It's a less amount out of the fund balance. That was the hypothetical in there was $750, not $1,000. But we start to get to the point to where that list of 30 position requests, we're not able to get as many as we would like. After calculating some numbers and getting more updated information, that 2.5, like the motion was made, we would be very close to that 3% threshold. A position or two or three, but no way we'd be able to do all 30, which we probably wasn't going to be attainable even at the 2%, but we would be right at that 3%, give or take. 3% would be the highest of the recurring cost. The proposal was a $500 one-time payment. That would be the lowest on that piece, and that would definitely put us in a position where the majority of the positions requests would not be able to be approved. That kind of high level, a little fairly quick, but definitely if you have any questions or open for discussion, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, looks like Gloria has her hand up. All right, Gloria, go for it.
Let me know if y'all can hear.
We can hear you.
Okay. Pete, sorry, there's a very strange. I want to ask you the 3% deficit threshold. If we went with the 2.5, would we still be able to maintain that?
You cut out a little, so I think your question was, if we did a 2.5%, would we be able to be at a 3% threshold?
Exactly.
Okay. So yes, at 2.5, we are right at that 3% with no additional positions. And some numbers may come in a little. There's still some things we're looking at, but that's about the max we could go and be at that 3% threshold.
Okay. Thank you.
These additional positions, where are they going to be located? Do you have an idea?
I have a general idea. I don't have the list actually memorized. They are pretty much, they run the gamut. Some of them are support positions. I don't recall them. I think there are a few special ed positions still left on the list. We've approved quite a bit. Those are kind of one of our higher priorities. They were a little bit of sprinkled everywhere. I mean, they were everything from central admin, paraprofessional. They were all the way down to some campuses. They were some. It wasn't just like one group. And I probably should have done a better job of having that list on top of my head. But
well, I think it's important to realize that that's the work that we've done this whole spring, right? So cabinet and chiefs have worked really hard on helping work with principals and prioritizing those list department heads to make sure that we have those in priority order. And so that we know if we have additional funds, what we're going to start picking off one at a time.
Yeah, I know when I talked to Dr. Gearing about what those positions were, because Sade, I had the exact same question, was basically I wanted to know, how are we prioritizing? Because in my mind, the first thing that came to my mind was, will we release those positions, those early positions, because we knew we needed those? And so are those part of this, or is this a separate pool? And it's a separate pool, so I learned a lot about it, and I think it was really a good question to ask. One of the things that I noticed too is that when you brought up about the state funding and how, you know, the state's sitting on this gigantic surplus of money and we're still not getting anywhere. I did notice that for Teacher Appreciation Week that the governor decided to send something out on Facebook saying he appreciated teachers. And I'll say something that, you know, there might be times when we're on different sides of the aisle politically or demographically, and it was amazing to see about 7,000 people come together and say, then fund us. Then fund public education, then stand behind your teachers and do what's right. So I'm really impressed with the fact that we can all come together and agree that of course we want to pay them as much as we can and make their jobs easier by giving them the staffing that they need. But I will say that I appreciate the crunching of these numbers. I know it's not easy, and I know we've asked a lot of questions. And the fiscal responsibility part of our job as trustees is to keep us at that deficit level that we agreed to. So while giving them as much as we can and staying under that deficit, it's a really interesting dance. And so I really appreciate all of the work that you've done, and I'm thankful for all of the questions that you guys have answered over the last couple of weeks, because I know it's been a lot from a lot of us, so thank you.
I have a question on the positions. On the chart on slide 9, it says on the 2.5 that if we were to do 2.5, it doesn't allow for any new position requests. And I know that I personally landed on preferring the 2.5 because it's not nearly what I would like to do, but it's a little higher. But I was also under the impression after my conversations with you and Dr. Gehring this week that it would still allow for a certain number of those positions, maybe not the originally intended number, but it's not 0, and this chart is reflecting 0.
When I did this presentation yesterday, it was 0.
Okay.
This morning, we were on the fly. It would be right under that 3%. There's still a little few moving parts. We've got it narrowed down fairly well, but we do believe even at the 2.5, there will be a couple of $100,000 that we might be able to give a few positions, but it's not going to be a lot. But we can at least have the discussion about what that comes into. Those numbers are still. I mean, I wish I had a hard fixed number, but I have a much better number than I did yesterday, than I did 2 days ago. But that 3% puts 2.5% compensation would put us right about at that 3, just a little bit, just a couple of $100,000 under that 3% threshold, if the numbers that hold true that we had this morning.
Okay, and I appreciate y'all running the 2.5%. I know that was originally outside of the numbers that you all ran, but given what we're not getting from the state and the position that they've put all the districts in the state of Texas of trying to maintain this balance of making sure that our financials are in a solid place so that we can maintain as long as possible, and then making sure that we're also able to get our staff that support that we need. So I appreciate y'all running the numbers and getting us a little bit more for our staff.
Yeah, I ran the numbers at the high level on the finance side. We haven't had a chance to run them on the HR side yet. But we were just like high level. I mean, but yeah.
So I also asked you some questions. I didn't see the new presentation wasn't uploaded, so I didn't ask you about 2.5%. What I asked you was about what does it mean for a staff person's paycheck at 2%, 3%, and 4%? What does that really look like? Where are these discussions? And so the difference I see is that at 2%, what their increase is going to be monthly. And then I see at 3%, that's the 1% extra, it was going to be an extra $50 a month. And so I'm thinking 2.5 then will be less than an extra $50 a month. I am struggling because what teachers need is a significant pay increase. And $50 a month is not a significant pay increase. They need more. The whole board knows this. The hours our board has spent up at the Capitol trying to find all sorts of ways to discuss, to figure out how to get funding released for our teachers. When you have a budget that's over 80% staff, 85, 86%, Yeah, 80, yeah, and growing. And less than what, 2.5% of that is your, you can't just say, oh, that's district administration. No, no, no.
2.1.
2.1%. So everything else is we are highly focused on our personnel. We are in the people business and the relationship business. And I'm concerned. So I need your help as we're getting ready to talk about a vote, because I'm trying to decide if I put that amendment out there or not. If we squeeze all that we can to give our teachers this extra less than $50 a month, then we have no option for extra positions, and we're right at the 3% threshold. And the thing that makes me really concerned is I don't yet seeing anybody say they're coming to our rescue to release the funds. We know the funds are there. Nobody's saying they're going to release it before the legislative session. And so I need to understand more about, I guess, where y'all land, because less than $40 for what we're going to do for our district on a raise that's going to be cumulative, which means that we keep increasing it, right? It keeps hitting our budget. I am really concerned about what this does financially, and what I don't want to do is make our budget so ridiculous that we don't get the positions and the support that we need, and that we do end up finding ourselves in a reduction in force. And when I look at the cuts, if you could go back and tell me the timeline on those cuts, just basic, because it seems like they keep growing, and they're kind of coming like one after another. I'm concerned. 2.5. I know I'd love to give our teachers more. I'm concerned about how that impacts us budget-wise.
Gloria had her hand up. Gloria, do you want to answer? Or do you want to let Pete answer? Do you want to go ahead and talk, Gloria? Okay, sorry, Pete.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and we can address both of these, and maybe everyone also. I think I'm looking at that 3% deficit threshold, and Pete just said at that 2.5, there is room for some positions. It's not full on positions. It's also not pushing us over the 3% deficit threshold. So we're not talking about a reduction in force. Over that, we might be talking about a reduction in force. Also, this budget that we're looking at, this numbers, the cost of us of the 2.5, that's with every single position filled as soon as those positions are available. We know that that's not going to happen. I mean, let's talk about how many of those positions are available and have been posted for a while. So I think for me, I'm thinking about being able to push as close as we can to the threshold that we've set, and be, and 2.5 gets us right to that threshold. I know, and it is scary, Trish, right? Because we're right at that threshold, but we set that threshold for a reason, and it's taking us right there. We're doing everything we can to get us right to that threshold, to that security gate that we created for ourselves.
And if all things being equal, and I was like, okay, these are the cuts, we're done, but it just keeps feeling like we're done, and I thought SHARS was gonna be the last big impact to budget, and these cuts are coming when we're not expecting. So it's not like the budget, our 3%, although we've set our number, and when we do the compensation, that stays. But the cuts to budget that are hitting us from different areas, that impacts. So in other words, if we get another cut, then we're gonna have an issue on it pushing us right over to the 3. And so that's what I'm curious about, is what are you seeing? Are we done, Pete, with cuts? Or, I just don't feel comfortable saying, 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh yeah, we have a good idea, we can see the crystal ball. This just keeps hitting us, and I'm very concerned about this, how we make sure we're careful going forward. So I guess if you could walk us through that.
So, the $1 million question or scenario is how do we determine what do we put as recurring cost? How close of our threshold do we get? And that was still leaving some flexibility in case of any future cuts or anything. I think we're to the point now where, as far as revenue goes, everything, this wood, can I knock on it? But, I mean, we know our titles, the Title I cut, everything else I think came in right at about what we had prior. We budgeted interest at 4.5, 4.75. Right now we're earning 5.4, 5.45. But we do know that, or it's anticipated that it was already supposed to start 2 Fed meetings ago, but it keeps getting pushed off, that we expect the interest rates to decrease. Does that go a quarter point at a time, or do they drop it? I'm leaning toward the quarter point, but still trying to be a little conservative on that end as well. The basic allotment is there. We're just in a position now where, utilities, I don't know that can change. I mean, there's a lot of variables, and you always want, how do you balance, give your employees, give the staff as much as you can, and not put yourself where, like you mentioned, where next year we're having to do what other districts are currently doing, and that's riffing positions or cutting programs or or taking things away. That's it's kind of one of the main goals we always have, is once we put a program in, once we do something, we want to be able to maintain that for as long as there's interest there, or as long as it benefits our employees. You never want to take something away. So again, I think the budget that we put together, and there are some assumptions in there. I mean, like I said, the interest rate was fairly conservative. We have added some programs, added quite a bit of pre-K, added some ESLE and ELE. Those programs pay for themselves. When we ran the numbers, the revenue that comes in pays for those additional teaching units and aid. So I think even by looking at it, I hate to, that's not the first way I like to look at something, is, hey, does it cover the cost? But that was an easier decision to make when it did cover the cost, and it benefits our students, and that was an easy win. But again, all that put into place, we have put, like I said, we built a budget at 2, anywhere between 2, 2.5. Is going to put us right there. Is going to put us there. We do have, like I said, there's some flexibility on the interest, but we are getting to that point where there's not a lot of, 1 or 2 variables. Thank goodness there's not a lot left, but 1 or 2 of those variables could derail the budget. So where's that balance?
When did we hear about the reduction in Title I funding?
Last Tuesday we had a meeting with TEA. I think we heard about it like maybe that Friday before we got a heads up. So it wasn't recent. I mean, we found out recent, but this is not something we've known about for a long time.
I think just for me, we got to remember we have an obligation as a board, right, to be financially conservative, right? And we know, but I also think we can't operate in fear of cuts. We live in Texas. This is public education in Texas. They've constantly defunded special education since 1991, and I'm sorry, but House Bill 3 did nothing for special education. So I personally saw this coming, and I know the next 2 years are going to be horrible, and there's nothing that we as a board can do but encourage a culture of voting and getting out and advocating at the Capitol and holding our local legislators accountable, because we have people who represent us right now who are not helping our school district at this moment. And we're in this position because of the actions and votes that they took. I know this, I am not happy. I wanted to do 4% because I value our teachers, because this year is horrible. I don't like the position we're in. But I also know in the next 2 years, it's going to be even worse. But I also know that our staff are being pushed to the ultimate test right now. We have students in special education, I know in particular, right? Their caseloads are huge right now. We have our ESL staff members, huge caseloads. We know this is happening. 2.5% gets us under that threshold that we as a board voted on to make sure that we stayed within that 3%. So I want to give as much as we can, but I also don't want to put us in a situation where we're going to find ourselves cutting positions. And we all know what the first positions that get cut when we're in a situation like that. Everyone can remember what happened in 2011, and I don't want this board to go through that again. I know it's not easy. Other board members who are very uncomfortable with this, but at the same time, we've got to retain the staff that we have. We have to, and we've got to give them everything that we can, still under that 3% threshold, and that's what this does.
I want to give them everything that we can. I also want to be able to give them the support that they need. I mean, I hear from our teachers talking about how they wish they had more behavioral specialists helping them out. When we're up here, we're talking about how we wish we had more counselors and so I get it, right? And 2.5% less than $50 a month, that's not a significant pay raise. So let's not kid ourselves, and I know we know that. This is not where we need to stop with our teachers. We need more. I would, because of a legislative session, just kind of like to bookmark that we need to start our budget discussions early. And we need a workshop in January, February, and March. I mean, I am very concerned. Dr. Gehring, you've had the discussions. I am feeling conflicted about, first of all, even if I put out an amendment, would anybody second it? I want to make sure that when I vote, I understand that I am not putting future positions or teachers in an uncomfortable situation, that we're making as sound of budget decisions as we can. Pete, you've worked miracles, and I don't want to flippantly make it sound like, oh, well, we'll just add an extra few $1 million, you'll make it work. I'm sure you will make it work, but I want to make sure we support our staff too, who's having to do the work. So, Dr. Gehring, I'm sad that it's come down to this discussion between 2 and 2.5. I think we would all much rather have a much bigger discussion on this, but I just don't want to push our budget. In my vote, I want to know that it's something we can do.
Pete, is there spots in our upcoming budget where we could cut back something?
Well, 87% of our budget is personnel. Now, we do have quite a bit of vacancies. Not quite as much we had 2 years ago, not quite what we had last year, but there's still vacancies. Normally, I believe one of the pre-assumptions would be we'd budget 98% of payroll. So that's what we have in there. We have reduced it by 2% just to try to account for those vacancies. Once you get beyond that, I mean, you're cutting papers and pencils, and I mean, it's, utilities. I mean, there's really 13% of your budget is non-payroll.
Well, maybe as a sign of solidarity, I'd like to make a personal pledge. I know we get a really nice craft services dinner before, and I'd like to, we discontinue that.
Well, that would
a
be
show of
something.
Solidarity with the teachers, because I know they don't get a free lunch, and they work very hard. Some of them, I know they put their kids to bed at 8 o'clock so they can do an Uber until midnight, go to bed, and then get up at 6 in the morning. They do it 5 days a week. So for doing even just a dinner for us, I can buy my own dinner. It's a small gesture, but it's a sign that, we are with the people who we serve.
Okay. We can get that number, and if we could look at that in the budget and go through that
And I just
process.
want to, our CNS department provides those meals, correct?
Yeah, our CNS provides that. It's not, but it does come out of the general fund does come out of it does pay for that.
Gloria's got a question.
Oh, sorry, Gloria. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that craft meal is from our CNS department. And also, we have a lot of staff that are here for board meetings. They've worked all day on campus. We have area superintendents out there, we have principals out there, we have special education out there. Look in that audience. That's an audience full of our staff that have been on campus, been working since early in the morning, and they're going to be there until this is all over. And so that's why we provide those meals. That those meals aren't just for a board member. Those are meals for everyone that's going to be here until whatever time it takes. And so that craft meal comes from our wonderful child nutrition services. So thank y'all for providing these excellent meals that taste like craft menu items.
Shawnee?
And I do appreciate those meals, but I've talked to other board members across the state, and we're one of the few that do that. type of service.
That's anecdotal. That is simply not true.
We're not going to, yeah, we're not doing hearsay today. Sade, next question.
So having the benefit of having the benefit of hearing what others have to say and the discussions that they've had with you earlier before today, the one thought that just came to my mind was, if we do 2%, at what point would we know if we're able to do more than, say, that 1,000 and bump it up a little bit later on in the year?
The one-time payment or the 1,000 would come to the board at a later date, because that would be a budget amendment coming from fund balance. That's not in the normal budget. Only the 2 or 2, whatever percent raise is in the budget. The one-time payment is coming from the general fund balance.
But it does give us the opportunity to understand how many students we have in enrollment by then. And so I think, to answer your question, we would usually bring that to the board in October for a late November payment or an early December payment. So by October, we have a much better idea of some of the parameters that at this point we're making educated guesses about, because that's what budgeting is. But by then we'll have a much better idea. So we could have the opportunity to look at increasing that one-time payment at that time.
And then the difference in the number of employees that, especially the employees that can help on campus, which is what we're looking at, or what I would say needs to be, I guess you guys have talked about prioritization, but when you prioritize those positions versus in a 2% world versus a 2.5% world, what kind of difference are you looking at in the number of positions?
Well, the difference between a 2 and a 2.5% raise is about $1.625 million. So a lot of our positions that we've talked about that are on our list, and there's a wide variety. Some are going to be your $30,000 to $40,000 positions, and some are going to be your $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 positions. So between those two variables of what each position, somewhere in the middle, if we just pick 70,000 as an average, if that 1.6 was freed up and we had 70, I mean, you're looking at a good, a number of positions. I'm not going to try to do that one in my head, but that would definitely free up some room to be able to look at some of these positions and try to be really targeted and specific to help alleviate any congestion or any areas or pockets of stress in the system.
Can we go to slide 7? We talk about LISD is conducting staffing studies and efficiency reviews, and we haven't got that information, correct? And can you explain what that entails and how is that going to impact staffing?
Yes. No, currently we have I think there's 3 that are out. One is a PEMS review, so we'll just kind of put that one off to the side right now. We have 2 reviews going on right now that are looking at the master schedules at the secondary campuses, looking at how they're staffed at the secondary campuses. Then we had another one, we just got the draft back. It's not a final report yet, and that was at the special education programs. The special education one was, we had one meeting to really go over the draft, and there's some we're actually really, I think we're pleasantly surprised kind of to what the findings were. And I say findings, it was actually quite positive. Just a couple of ideas that they had mentioned that would help support those special ed positions that are on the campuses, more from the central admin levels, kind of where that one came from. We felt that we were a little lean at the central admin, so we weren't able to provide the support at the campuses for the special education program. We're still working our way through it. We're going to send our information back, and they'll come out with a final report later. The main purpose of it was, as we mentioned, 87, 86, 88% of our budget is personnel. So what from the lens that I look at it and the role that I play for the district, is if we're one position overstaffed, to most people at a campus or in a department, that's one position. But to me, it's 48 positions because we have 48 campuses, and then everything is exponential. And so we try to look at it and, you know, where's the biggest bang for the buck? Where is the least effect on our students and our program goals? But how do we find that equilibrium point where that perfect balance, where we feel that we're staffed appropriately? We do have some budget constraints. That's well documented. And then how do we balance that with the program or the needs of our, you know, that we want to offer our community and our students? And so a lot has changed, you know, in the last 10, 20 years, you know, talking with our principals, not a lot of district level training has been provided for master schedules. Now, some of them did that on their own and went and got some training. I mean, you know, kudos. I want to definitely give them credit. But as far as a district level, what's our philosophy going to be? What is, you know, what are some areas that we can look at? That's the purpose of doing these reviews, to kind of get an idea of if there are some opportunities that we can just do efficiency. You know, or some decisions that were made that just, you know, maybe it was very student-centered decision, but it wasn't really data-informed. And there's another way we can do it and accomplish the exact same thing, the same or not better, but it cost us less, or we're able to, you know, maximize how we use our schedule or schedule our people. So those are the purposes of it, because like I said, 87% of our budget is personnel. So that's kind of where we start. We're working on implementing Great American Schools is an organization that's been around since the early 80s. It's, if I remember correctly, I'm going off memory, it was kind of like Los Angeles Unified, Dallas ISD, Baltimore, New York City Public Schools developed this back in the early 80s, and it's a conglomerate of what is the best practices as far as number of groundskeeper per acre, you know, number of custodials per square feet, and it's catered for education buildings. It's not just the private sector, it's catered specifically for schools. So we're looking at that information, kind of comparing where are we with those standards, and trying to develop a system where we can start building those into the staffing guidelines, and develop, here's what it says we should be, this is where we're at, there's obviously a gap, how do we get there, and just do a 3, 4, 5 year plan, you know, to balance that out. So it's a lot of balancing, a lot of juggling, but we believe this is the best step to prepare us and to make sure that we can come to our community and say, we have studied this is the most efficient way, or this is we're doing things right in line, and so we are maximizing the taxpayer dollars to provide the best service for our students and our community. That's kind of where that process is going. We're very early stages, but those are ongoing.
I appreciate y'all taking the initiative on that, considering what is coming for us in the next 2 to 3 years, right?
Yes.
And I feel like you're really getting us in a position where we know some tough decisions will be made, and it's to be able to find out what is effective in our system. And sometimes you're right, like we want to do what's best for our students first, and it's hard because you've got this budget. And so I'm happy to hear that they focus on schools and they're not private sector, so they understand the student experience is the most important thing. So I appreciate y'all doing that. I'm looking forward to the findings, because I do feel with those reviews, and I want to make sure audit. I don't want to use reviews.
Say reviews.
Reviews.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the A word.
I know.
I feel I'm happy we're doing it, and I do feel like we're going to find some more effective ways to do things, and I'm hopeful that we're going to see a positive out of that, and then we won't see as near cuts or this huge, you know, horribleness next budget. Like, thank y'all for taking that initiative.
I'd still like to hear from Dr. Gehring on, I just need your point of view of what you're looking at as you're seeing this, because this is challenging.
Yep, thank you. So we have a budget calendar and process development for a reason. We approve budget parameters back in January in order to help us to develop the budget. This is an intense process. This is a large amount of money. There's a lot of moving parts in the district, lots of things that we have to take into consideration. So it takes a lot of people, a lot of time to process through all of those pieces. We bring you a recommendation of 2% in the one-time payment tonight based on everything that we've done in that process. We bring you 2% because that's what the parameter was set back in January. I learned something new today that was very helpful to me in-time learning, real-time learning, and that is that the reason that we put the 2, the 3, the 3.5, and the 4 in the budget is you're going to approve the compensation plan tonight, not the actual budget. And in order to approve the compensation plan, you have to have a compensation plan. If you approve a 2% raise, then HR has taken a lot of time to build out what that looks like for every employee in the district, and that's what's in the compensation plan. And so they built out different scenarios to make sure that we have those in place so that when you approve the plan, we can then communicate out to employees. So I did not know that, and I've talked to several of you about that issue up until now and haven't really given you the right information. So I learned that today. That made a lot more sense to me now suddenly about why we put these in this way. So having said that, we did not build out 2.5%. We only built 2, 3, 3.5, and 4. And so if we land at 2.5%, that's fine. We can handle that tonight. Employees just need to know that it's going to take HR a significant amount of time. And when I say that, several weeks for us to go build that compensation plan to make sure that we have every single position in the district lined out the way that we need to. The way that you worded your motion tonight does allow us to go and do that work and still approve that motion tonight, so I don't want to take away from that. I personally would like to recommend that we stay at 2% and that we do consider the one-time payment in November as we have done before. That gives us a little bit of wiggle room to try to provide more support to our employees in terms of adding some additional positions that are on our list. I want to talk about that process a little bit, and you guys jump in if I say anything incorrect here. When we started, we have a new position request process, and we had about $11 million worth of new requests on that list. Our job is to go and take that $11 million and pare it down to what we can afford to actually fit inside the budget. So we prioritized that list, pared it down over several months of work, and I think we managed to approve about $2 million worth of those $11 million. So we know that in those new position requests, not every single request is necessarily a high priority need, and that's why we can prioritize them. And so, you know, some of that 11 million is not going to be on the table ever. But what it does point to is that we have about $9 million odd, or some way less than that, a significant amount of needs still in the district that's been requested that we're not going to fund. As a growing district, it doesn't look like we're having budget shortfalls because we're not laying people off. But that doesn't mean that we're adding the amount of people that we need to meet the needs of our students and our staff. So in the listening sessions, I did 4 overburdened, overwhelmed, and things are just difficult. And that's partly because we are not adding as many staff as we feel like there is a need for. So, having said that, we do have to live within the means that we have. It is our responsibility as a governing body together to make difficult decisions. We have to make sure that we are adequately providing for the continuance of our district into the future, and that we have the financial resources to do that. At the same time, you know what we want learning to look like in the classroom, and we're going to do everything in our power to support every one of our educators. And I'll point out that this is not just about teachers. This is about every one of our educators in the district, from our crossing guards all the way up to our central office staff. And so we need to make sure that we support them in other ways. Financially, we'll do the very best that we can, but we have to advocate for adequate state funding for public schools and for LISD in particular. That is going to become absolutely critical as we go forward. So my recommendation is 2% one-time payment, and I'll leave you to make that decision.
Gloria?
Yeah, I have a question. I know, Pete, you said we're budgeting at a 98% of positions filled. What was that percentage this past year?
I don't have an exact percent of what our fill rate was, if you will. But we still have quite a significant amount of vacancies amongst all positions. I mean, our teachers, I think, are a lot less than they had in the couple of years past, but we still have a lot of positions, or what we would call auxiliary or the manual trade positions that have been very hard to fill.
Do we
But I don't
know
have the
how much
percent,
of,
I apologize.
okay, that's okay. How about, can you give me an approximate, and I'm sorry, I would have asked these earlier if I had thought about them. The amount of money that went back into our budget this year from those unfulfilled positions? Those unfilled positions, sorry.
Let me try to back into it real quick. The last number I have is we were about anticipating finishing the year prior to the empowerment fund transfer last year, which had nothing to do with the compensation raise we're talking about tonight. But we were about 1.5 deficit if we were to end the year on those numbers. Now that's $7 million we lost in SHARS. So if we had SHARS money, which was in the budget, we would be at 5.5 a surplus. Normally, last year, I think we had about a 15 surplus, but we did take $5 million out right toward the end of the year and gave move some money to health insurance, move some money to major maintenance. So we had a 10 on paper, but there was 15. So if you go back into that amount, we're at 5. We went from 15 to 5. So that's
I'm
10
sorry,
million more in a raise.
My question was more of how much went back into our budget from those unfilled positions that we had last year.
Well, we ended up adding, like I said, at the end of the year, our revenues exceeded expenditures by 15 million.
Okay.
A big portion of that, not all, but
at.
a big portion of that 15 million was because of vacancies throughout the system.
Right. And I know we don't have as many vacancies and we're budgeting it at 98%. But I guess for me, I'm looking at, we set a 3% deficit threshold for us to keep us in this area that we felt safe in. And 2.5 gets us right to that point, right? I know it gets us close, but we set that threshold at that point to do that. If we wanted a threshold that was lower, then that's a different discussion. But this is getting us right below the threshold that we set. And I do think that there are positions that we need, and we are a growing district, but I also know that we have vacancies. And so I feel confident that as things move throughout the year, we'll be able to create positions where we need them, and then also look at, positions that have been vacant for way too long. But I do think if we want to, at another time, of course, talk about what our percent threshold is for that deficit, that is a different discussion. And, maybe that is a budget retreat, as Trish mentioned, or something like that. But I feel like we set that 3% budget deficit threshold, and 2.5 allows us to do that.
I have a question on slide 8. This is for you, Dr. Gehring. In these conversations, it says, our staff, we're talking about professional development and training, innovative programs, and support initiatives. Sorry, I'm too trigger happy with this. My question is, so when we're thinking about support initiatives, I'm thinking of like what we did to our child psychologists and giving them a day to work from home. A lot of conversation right now is our ELE Friends program, because our staff uses that pre-K. Where are we at on that discussion? Because that is a huge incentive, and we have staff members right now who are waiting to see what happens, because that's their livelihood. That is a perk for our staff, and it would be a shame if we took something away like that, knowing that they're asking for support initiatives in our environment.
So thank you. Let's be very clear that ELE and ELE Friends is not going away for 24-25. We're still running that program the exact same way that we have run it up until now. I've charged the team with two things. Number one is to really shoring up our early childhood special education inclusion environments. We have the ability to do a better job than we're doing right now with ELE and ELE Friends with that group because of our expansion of pre-K. And so I've charged them to explore what does that look like on the inclusion side for early childhood special education students. The second thing I charged them with was to find an opportunity for us to provide pre-K services for our staff children that's equal to or better than what we offer in ELE Friends right now. Once we have solved those two problems, then we will allow ELE and ELE Friends to go away because we'll have two much better solutions in place.
Thank you so much.
Pete, my biggest concern is that we adopted, what was our budget parameter last time? Was it we were at 5 or 4%, right? Okay, so we did 5, that's right, we did 5, we're at 4, we're at 3. And the reason we're doing that, if I understand, is to make sure that it's not about having a lot of extra room in the budget. We want to make sure we're pushing this money towards the salary and towards the staff. At the same time, if I remember correctly, the directive we've been giving you too is to reduce that amount of extra at the end with fund balance. So we have conscientiously been moving forward and intentionally to reduce those extra padding areas that you used to have. I'm concerned about, I love our budget parameter at 3, absolutely. I agree with Gloria in all her comments. My thought is though, we had more wiggle room before, and so that 3% isn't like locked in right now at this 3%. Like this budget thing, this number is going to change because of outside variables. And so I'm worried that if we adopt this amount, that we're going to cross over that 3%, especially if we get one more cut, and we just got one out of the blue last week. And so I am concerned about that. I don't want to see a reduction in force. I would love to see more positions and support for our staff. I would also love to see them get an increase in their paycheck, and we can't do it all. So I'll put out an amendment because that'll help us move our conversation quickly, because I pretty much know where this is going to go, that I would like to make an amendment that we adopt the motion, and if I could just make an amendment to the motion, we'll just see if it gets a second. And the amendment is that we change it to a 2% of midpoint salary increase.
All right, Trish has an amendment to the motion. Do we have anyone to second her? No
Can
second.
I continue
Go.
discussion?
You want a discussion? All right,
Yeah.
go for it.
I just wanted to continue discussion.
No, we were just going to do the amendment, not the whole motion. We're still discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, so the amendment, yeah, I want to clear, so hold on. I need to make sure, anyone giving Trish a second for her amendment? We're still going to discuss it. We're not calling the vote yet. This is just Trish's amendment to lower to 2%.
So does that put both 2 and 2.5
No,
on the table?
no,
or-
just this is knocking 2 down. 2.5 is still on the table. And we're still going to hold a discussion. We're not closing discussion for 2.5. This is for she did an amendment to the motion to have it 2% only.
Okay. 2%. Okay, I'm confused. Sorry.
So either you're going to second her amendment because she wants it 2%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to make a decision. Okay. So that's why I'm asking for further discussion.
Well, then you're going to need to second it.
Oh, okay.
And then it would have to go to a vote.
What did you say?
Madam President, if I get a second, we can discuss it after that.
Right, that's what I'm trying to explain to her right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, but just be careful because if you second that motion, then we have to take a vote on whether that.
But then it'll go to vote, right? So if they go for 2, then we have to vote for the 2%, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So it changes the motion.
But we can still vote the
It
motion
won't
down.
completely change the motion, Sade. So you can leave it at the 2.5 and continue that discussion, or you change the motion that's on the table to the 2, and then we continue the discussion. But whatever, if we vote on that, then we're changing what we're voting on.
A point of parliamentary procedure. If I make an amendment and it gets seconded, and then we end up discussing, and then we call the vote on it. If it does not pass, then the original motion is on the table, so then we'd go to the 2.5 discussion.
So just to clarify, there would have to be a vote on amending the motion, which is separate from voting to approve the compensation plan. So there would have to be two steps in that process.
All I know is I just want to have a discussion. I can't decide on a second
Well, we
until my
can still
questions
have the
are asked.
discussion without seconding her, and then someone can do another amendment if you feel like it.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful.
So can we please clarify the amended motion first? We have to decide if there is a second or not.
I'm guessing that is not a second, so amendment denied. Sade, continue discussion.
So I was trying to look for the information about what, I'm pretty torn here because as we come up against the budget parameter, but at the same time, with the unfilled positions, it's not like we can swap them for, like, say, okay, or maybe we can we look at, as Gloria said, some of those unfilled positions, if they have been unfilled for a long time, but it doesn't mean the need goes away. So do we still keep looking for them, or do we just cancel those programs because we can't find staff? Or just maybe not cancel the programs, but leave them shorthanded, and then swap them for some of these other positions that people would like to have if we did the 2%.
Well, the positions that we have vacant, there's a need, and those have been allocated and gone through a process. So for us to have a discussion to change that would have to happen not right here and right now. It would have to happen, go back to the chiefs and go back to the administration, and that would take some time. The budget would be adopted long before that discussion ever came to a conclusion. Now we can look at, we budget 98% of payroll. We can look at prior years and see, but the 2 years prior are skewed. So I may look at the last 2 years and they may have been 97%, but that doesn't mean we're going to be 97% this year because each of the last 3 years, we've had less and less vacancies. We still have a lot, but we don't have near what we had 2 years ago. We don't have near what we had last year, but we still have some vacancies. So I still feel very confident that 98% number is a good number to go with. It's as good number as any. Again, if we reduce that, then all of a sudden economy changes a little bit, all these positions starts to, people are getting applicants for, then we've put ourselves in a position to where we hired all these positions, or we gave a higher raise, and now we have more need. Now, Dr. Gearing mentioned earlier, we can come back in August, September. If enrollment is higher, we can make these adjustments for the one-time piece on that end. But as far as, when we do the budget, at this level, there's probably about 3 or 4 variables left. There's interest earnings, which I really think we have a good number. We can tweak it a little bit. It's not going to be huge. 98% on the fill rate, and I think that is as solid as a number to go with. I think anything beyond that, lower than that, could put you in a vicarious situation going forward. And then everything else is all based on enrollment in our campuses. So I don't think this is a time for us to try to adjust staffing or positions that we have. But we're in that process now for 25-26. That's a process we need to go through, take 4, 5, 6 months, really hammer it out, get feedback, really look at what our programmatic goals are. So I don't want to really, my advice would be not to go down that road at this time. But I think all the numbers that we have, I think our budget is fairly in very good shape, fairly good shape on our assumptions. I don't think we have been too conservative, but I don't think we've been too loose either. I think we have a good number. If any of that changes with better information, then we can have that. We can make that adjustment. We still have a couple more weeks, but as of right now, I think that 98%, that 2% is about $7 million. So that's a big gap. So if you miss that, that can harm the budget fairly quick.
So to give you an example, a concrete example of what happened in our budget process as we looked at all of those position requests, we had transportation take some of their vacant positions that they were not able to fill, and they actually swapped them out for other positions that they really needed because they hadn't filled them. So I think that's what you're pointing to is, are there any that we could, grab and use for a different purpose? That process has already happened. And then on top of that, we're taking budgeting at 98% to make sure that we hit that extra piece. So we feel like we're very tight. I wanted to just add a little bit of color to what the tightening of the budget process has been for several years now. And Pete pointed this out earlier. So we ended the year having about a $15 million surplus the year before. That has tightened all the way down to $5 million. In this current year, if we had got SHARs and we didn't get SHARs. So we're actually going to end up with a deficit budget, a real deficit budget. That hasn't happened in the district in a long time. And so that points to the fact that we're really tightening our parameters really tight. And it gets more difficult now as we go forward to make some of these predictions. But I'll also point out that what you're approving tonight is the compensation plan. And so if, for example, you stay at 2%, we still have some time to go back and look at all of those other positions to get us to the 3% threshold for the budget approval in June. And so this is this constant balance, and we talked in our listening sessions about this extensively of, is it about compensating who we have, or is it about adding some positions that can help support who we have? We value you both ways, and we're trying to do as much of both as we can. So now it's just about deciding what that balance looks like.
Thank you. I guess this is another point is trying to think of, from your listening sessions, what the voice of the teacher was. And from what I've heard, it was, yes, compensation's important. However, it was a little bit less important than some other areas like support and professional development. So if positions provide that support, then it's almost like that's what the teachers are asking for more than additional 0.5% compensation.
Yeah, and of course it's not quite as simple as that. We make it sound simple. First of all, we had a great turnout at listening sessions, but that is not the voice of the district. We have almost 6,000 employees in the district. We did not hear from 6,000 employees. So we can bring some anecdotal data back to you, but that is not necessarily the voice of the district. So let's make sure that that's understood. But I think also the support is not just about more people or more money. It's about culture and about belonging and about value. And that is huge as we build relationship going forward. And so we've got to do all of those things in conjunction as best we can.
Gloria, you're next.
Just wanted to clarify, when you say that this is kind of what we heard at those listening sessions, was there a survey, or was that in a chat? Or when you say this is what you heard that was most important, is that what was anecdotally shared with you by a few people, or was there, how are you quantifying that?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So we did in-person virtual listening sessions. Does that make sense? Real-time synchronous listening sessions with real people talking to each other virtually. And we had quite a few people attend those. We put Read AI in there to take notes, and then we processed that through the AI to get some anecdotal responses back. We also had a thought exchange, and you know how thought exchange works. People put their thoughts in there, then people can rate them and vote on them. We also then ran those results through AI to come down to some of this. So what you see on your screen is AI generated. That's looked at all of that data. But I will confirm that what AI says happened in those listening sessions, both in thought exchange and in person, virtually, is an accurate reflection of what I heard, having personally been in those listening sessions.
All right, board members, are there any more questions or discussion? All right, then we know what we got to do. We have a motion on the table. Christine made the motion. Sade second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Wait, 7 ayes, sorry. No opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Pete, Carrie Lynn, for all your help and questions. I know the last 2 weeks have been, it's crazy. It's crazy. Compensation season's crazy, but we appreciate you. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, board, we're going to
Two great
take
staffs.
a 10, oh, and thanks for the presentation. I love the Taylor Swift reference. Sorry, y'all had to. All right, board, we're going to take a 10-minute break, so y'all better be back by 8:39. break, and we are now going to go to 7C2, discussion of district-wide intruder detection audit findings. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Gehring. This evening we're here to present on the item that will be later discussed during closed session, which are the intruder audits. So I'm going to go ahead and read the following statement regarding the audits. The safety and security of our students and staff is a top priority. Beginning in September of this year, the Texas Education Agency has conducted 44 intruder detection audits at our campuses. The audits test whether a campus is accessible to an unauthorized individual. The audits seek to help the district identify how many campuses can improve student safety, such as ensuring exterior doors are locked and providing an opportunity to create a safer learning environment. Of the 44 audits, we have had 7 state findings since September. We reported 6 findings previously. With any state finding, all staff at the campus is retrained and to ensure all exterior doors are locked and closed and any mechanical repairs needed are completed. We acknowledge that parents and the community members are interested in the details of the audit results. However, it is in the best interest of the students that we do not share this information with the broader public, as it could lead to compromising important campus security information. Specific details of the intruder detection audit findings will be discussed in this evening's closed session. The intruder detection audits are one of the many actions we take to ensure our schools are safe. With safety as our top priority, we know this work does not end, and we can commend our campuses for their diligence in keeping our students and staff safe.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. And now, board, we're going to move to 7C3, consider approval of budget amendments. Pete. You are up again. This time we'll make sure we're here even longer. I'm just kidding.
He said he had 5 pages to read. I thought we were going. Good evening, members of the board. Good to see you again. It's been such a long time. We do have a budget amendment tonight. I'll give you the real brief, real highlights of it. We are asking 2 things. We are asking to amend some revenue and expenses on the general fund side that do not change anything in the bottom of the fund. We're also moving some monies within function of 199. That doesn't change anything at the bottom line of the fund. The main reason we don't have it on consent agenda is we are asking for 1.568, just under 1.57 million dollars in expenditures budget for the food service. This is part of our Texas Department of Agriculture, or TDA, spend down plan. We are only allowed to have 3 months or 90 days of general fund balance, Foods, Child Nutrition Services fund balance in that fund, and we have exceeded that, and so we are in the process of spending that down on items food service related, mainly more like equipment repair or update, new equipment, food service lines, etc.
All right, board members, this is up for approval tonight. Any discussion or motions?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the budget transfers and amendments to the 2023-2024 budget as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Francesca, a second by Trish. Any discussion, board members? All right, we need a vote. All those in favor? 7 ayes, no nays, motion passes. Thanks so much, Pete.
Thank you.
All right, it is 8:43 p.m. and the board will now go into closed session for the purposes permitted by the Texas Government Codes. Texas Government Code 551071, consultation with attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation and/or attorney-client privilege matter. Texas Government Code 551074, deliberation regarding resignations, terminations, employment, reassignments, duties, and evaluation of personal and public officers. Texas Government Code 551081, deliberation regarding matters whereby personal identifier information regarding 1 or more students will be disclosed. Texas Government Code 551089, discussion of district-wide intruder detection audit report findings. Texas Government Code 551074, deliberation and consideration of employment of area superintendent. Texas Government Code 551074, deliberation and consideration of employment of the executive director of safety and security. This position will transition to the chief of Leander ISD Police. No action will be taken in closed session. Any action related to closed session agenda items will be taken when the board returns to open session. is 9:02 and the board is back from closed session. Board members, do we have any motions related to closed session agenda items?
I move that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of Lucretia Rogers for Executive Director of Safety and Security, 1-year probationary employment contract for personnel addition as presented in accordance with the salary scale, policies, and contract of Leander Independent School District for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second?
We have a motion from Sade and a second from Trish. Any discussion, board members? All right, we're going to vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. 6 ayes, all opposed. 1 opposed, motion passes. Welcome to Leander ISD. Board members and public, it is now 9:03 p.m. and having no further business, this meeting of the Leander ISD Board of Trustees is adjourned.